All right. Welcome, everyone, to the fourth and final session of the Soul Sword Forge. This is our Trophy Gold uh, incursion module that we are running through. I published this as part of Zine Quest. It went really well. I'm very happy with that. So if you follow the link in the description, there actually is a pre-order page up already if you want to go and get that. But enough about that. My name is Sam Zimmerman. I use he and him pronouns, and I will be the game master for this evening. And we are joined by some absolutely wonderful, wonderful people. So I'm going to have you guys quickly just introduce yourself, and then we will do characters later after I've done a little bit more intro stuff. So on my screen, I have Gerald next.
Gerald's muted.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was typing something and have now messed it up. So yeah, I'm Gerald, use he, him pronouns. And that's all I really had to say too. Sorry.
No worries. And John.
Hey, I'm John. I use he, him pronouns. I develop a website called rollwithme.xyz. I actually just pushed a new version of it. So if you play games online, check it out. Hopefully it helps. If not, there's lots of other tools and that's fine. And yeah, that's all I got.
It's not fine. Definitely use that. I'll come to your house and I'll find you, and I know who you are. My name is Jan. I'm not usually so aggressive, but I am now because I haven't slept that much. So back off, all right?
All right. So a little bit else. This game is organized as part of the Gauntlet. The Gauntlet is a community of like-minded gamers who get together on the internet to play silly RPGs. We do things like Trophy Gold. We also play lots of other OSR and indie and smaller press games. And you can find more about that at gauntlet-rpg.com. A link will also be in the description. This game, Trophy Gold, is fairly dark, and we will be hitting some pretty heavy topics. So we are using lots and lots of safety tools. We are using lines and veils, which the players have already gone through and reviewed. We are using the X card. We are using script change, and we have the open door policy in effect. Again, if you want to see more or read more about any of those tools, you can find more in the description. All right, and with that, let us quickly review where we were last time. So why don't each of you give us a quick intro of your character, and then we will kind of talk about what this looks like in this freeze frame episode open as the camera is kind of panning around inside of this frozen frame that we go through. So back through the same order, Gerald, why don't you introduce us to Rasei?
Sure. Rasei is former knight. He's now a bit of a leech, and he he has a chunk of his right cheek that has a large bite in it that's still freshly sewn, and has developed a phobia of crows, and definitely has a sore throat. Has certainly fared, not as well as he might have expected coming into things, but he's still standing.
I love that. And I think the camera starts off with Rasei. You have this look of horror on your face as the torch that you're holding, the flames are frozen in place as we're kind of slowly panning back away from you. And the camera turns a little bit along this row of black cells that line the western wall of this long corridor, and poking around inside of one of them, we see Vero. Jan, do you want to quick intro us, Vero?
Yeah, so Vero is a balding gentleman who used to have a meticulous comb over that is now incredibly disheveled. Underneath his half-tarred and feathered body, you find an older gentleman in his, I would say late midlife. He has a sort of pedantic way about him. He's an incredible coward, like even by the standards of cowards. And he is not opposed to using people to his benefit, which I'm really up playing as a player, but I probably the characters know that to some extent, but maybe don't know it to the extent that it actually is. And what else can I say? Yeah, I hope someone kills him.
I love it. That is why did that change my background?
That's amazing. You should leave it.
Sure, I guess it is a
The
castle.
French Revolution.
It is very French Revolution, but all right, we will turn that off. But sorry, that got me distracted. Yeah, so Vero has been poking around in this this locked cell. We see you staring at the lock that it used to hold the door closed, and it has been smashed to pieces as you have your sorry, what weapon do you have? You have a hunter's knife, and so you've taken the butt end of this knife and you've just smashed this this cell door that at one point you believed to be a human heart.
Oh, I think you're mixing me up with another player. I don't think that happened to me. I could be mistaken, but
No, Vero is definitely the one that was going crazy, right?
Really? I mean, you might be right. I am suffering from insomnia, but I could have sworn that was somebody else. But that's fine. I'll roll with the punches. Let's do it. I am crazy, so that's perfect.
Yeah, and so our camera pans around to look at the other side of this long corridor. The far end of the corridor is this large arched doorway. There is no door in the doorway, but a bright white light is shining out from somewhere beyond. And the other side of the room from all these cages is a long, deep crack that basically extends down into the darkness below where the lights can reasonably see. On the far side of this crack, there is an imp or some kind of small demon that is standing atop a wooden hitching post. This hitching post seems to be almost exuding chains that are mid arc across this pit, launching themselves at a pair of figures that are currently lying on the floor. John, why don't you intro us Parda?
Yes, Parda, who is a failed witch hunter turned scavenger, was last antagonizing and provoking this imp, telling it that it was no threat and that we would simply walk right through if we wanted to, if we so pleased. And then I recall that Parda was grabbed by a chain and started to be pulled down towards the crack. But then with the help of Alicio, broke free, though part of that chain is still wrapped and clinging to her right arm.
Yeah, and so Elisio, our half transformed beast bitten, rushed in to pull you away from these chains that had briefly restrained you. And now you, the two of you, are lying on the floor, and you have but a moment to recognize each other as for what has just happened. And you look up to see these these 3 additional chains that have arced their way across the pit and are heading right for you. As we come out of this freeze frame, what do we see Parta do in this moment?
Parta pushes herself up, pushing off of Alicio's chest, not hardly even paying him any mind. And I'm going to start storming back towards the imp as I cast, what is it called? Glamour on myself. And I'm going to attempt to, what's the word I'm looking for? Basically, my intent here is I'm going to make myself look like some sort of beautiful, almost deific being, and try and berate this imp and talk it down.
So you're trying to almost intimidate.
Yes. Yeah.
With your force of presence.
Yes. Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. I think this is a risk roll as you have these chains flying at your face. So what do you hope to accomplish by doing this?
I hope to basically leave the imp awestruck, and make it believe that it's been, conversing with some sort of supernatural being that should not be trifled with.
Okay. So I see. So you're trying to basically stall for time.
Actually, well, the immediate is get it to stop attacking us, and then I want to try and convince it to let me look at its post and read this magic from it.
Yes, thank you for reminding me. The current set goal is to read the hitching post and to learn its secrets, or learn the magics that are kept there. So, yeah,
Good memory,
all right.
John.
So Gerald and Jan, what could go wrong here?
I mean, it could have the opposite effect. Like an imp could react rather than being intimidated, like angry or like enraged by the presence of a beatific being.
Okay. The thing I'm going to offer is that it works too well, and the imp is truly awestruck and forgets to pull these corpses back into the pit. And for just as a reminder, there are these kind of like leathery, dried out husks that are still attempting to pull themselves out of the pit, and the imp will every once in a while just like yank on one of their chains to pull them back down into the pit. And so you've awestruck this imp so badly that it is letting these husks escape. Gerald, do you have an idea?
No, it's too similar to. I was taking the opposite of Jan's, is too close to where you're at, so I think we're good.
All right, sounds good. And so, do you have a skill or a piece of equipment or a piece of the environment that you're using to help you in this situation?
I'm going to get a little creative here. Tell me what you think. As I cast the spell, I will pull out my woven silver fishnet and interlace it over myself, almost like what's a cape of a sort, right? Like an overcoat, with the hopes that it's going to reflect the light and create that ambiance of glow that I need to really finish selling the illusion?
So I will give you this if you can kind of weave it into the casting of the ritual as like a component of the spell. What does that look like? Maybe.
I think it looks like Parda, stands up and pulls this fishnet out, throws it over her shoulders, and starts to speak these words. And you see her facial features and even her body size distort as she's kind of a small woman to start, but you see her grow by a couple of inches as she kind of takes on sort of the typical fairy godmother look almost, right? And her shoulders broaden a bit, and just the way the net helps frame her stature, glints of light now sparkle as she turns, and I'm picturing there's sconces with torches or something, and or I think we have some torches out maybe, and so light reflects off of the bits of the strands of silver, and part of the illusion as well is transforming Parta's very rough and ready wear into something more elegant and fitting of someone of this higher stature.
Okay, I like that. Cool. So Devil's Bargains here. Um, I'm going to offer that you have done nothing to interact with these chains. And so these chains are still flying across the pit. They are going to wrap around you and Elisio. But if this fails, the imp is going to start pulling on these. If it succeeds, the imp is not going to like be pulling on them to pull you into the pit, but you're still going to have chains wrapped around you, and you need to figure out what to do with that. Rasay or Vero, do you guys have Devil's Bargains that you want to offer?
Maybe something that came to mind was that maybe the room had some that it itself has some kind of magical aura that interacts with Parda's magical aura in a way that sort of disfigures her in a permanent way, or like the casting goes off in some strange way that has some side effects that are longer term, and that like maybe she's half like glowing, or has like this two-face feature or something that might come around to bite her in another scene.
That's fun. I like that.
I think in the description there was a little bit of a reference to almost a fairy godmother type of like an archetype, and I was thinking as a devil's bargain that the mother reference can actually be channeling Parda's mother, and that there's some sort of fusion with the witch mother as part of this that just comes along.
I like that idea too, like almost like it's like opening a channel to her or something.
Right, like maybe she talks to you now in some way or something like that.
Yeah.
Or maybe you
Those-
accidentally take on her aspect or something,
That's really tempting. Gosh. I think I'm gonna go. I'm gonna take Sam's Devil's Bargain, just because I love the immediacy of it, and I think it really makes sense. Like I'm not addressing the change. This is purely I'm gonna force of will hope to convince this imp it needs to back down.
Yeah, okay, I like that. So yeah, you are rolling 2 light dice, and since you are using a ritual, you have to take the first dark die.
All right, let's see. I've got 1 dark. Let me add 2 light and roll that. So I've got
6 on the light.
6 on the light. Yep.
Nice. So I guess describe what this looks like. What is it? You've already given some description of like the transformation sequence, like the almost like the yeah. So I think that maybe like this imp is almost like you can see like his eyes go big and start to like the light starts to glint and he's like squinting and like like drops all the chains and starts putting his hands up in front of his face to like cover his eyes from this light. Um,
Yeah, and as I'm wrapped in these chains, I'm yelling out at him, "You do not know who you were messing with. Release me from this, imp. You serve me in these halls."
and yeah, so I think he like drops like as best he can, like drops to his knees almost like it's not very good because he's still trying to balance on top of this post. But oh, forgive me, mistress, for I knew not who I spoke. Please do not punish your poor servant Xenovox. I was only doing my bidding.
That oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask what are Vero and Rasei doing in the background of this scene?
So as I understand it, I'm locked in this jail cell.
You're not locked in. You have busted your way in, so the door is swinging behind. You are in one of the cells, but you're not locked in.
Okay, I'm just trying to recall because I clearly I don't the heart thing. Yeah, I'm fuzzy about that.
You had been exploring those cells looking for treasure, and in doing so, your paranoia, kind of almost not quite schizophrenia. You've been like hallucinating voices in the hallways and cries for help where there are none.
Yeah, I
And
remember that now.
so you had started looking at one of these
Yeah,
locks, and
okay,
it was
this is
just kind of
coming
like
back to me.
thump, like beating heart, even though it was dried and withered.
Okay. Great. So I feel like since that has been my state of mind, maybe I'm like my reaction to this is like this isn't real. And so maybe I think that like some of what I'm seeing is just more of that, right? That like Parda is just like another one of my hallucinations. Like he just turned into a fairy godmother, like that's not real. And so
So
I'm just like standing in like in a sort of enthralled look on my face, trying to be like, yeah, trying to be like looking at it like I'm really interested in, but also looking at it like I'm like, no, this can't be real.
to throw a little bit of a mix in here, I think that Parda, at least from the back, looks an awful lot like that woman that's chasing you.
Great.
So
right. Yeah.
you know that this woman is coming to like specifically kill you.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, I've got my knife out already, but I am like doubting my eyes.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
So I think I'm just gonna stay behind Cage, and just like hold my knife out threateningly, and sort of like stand behind the door. I don't want to involve myself in this, and if someone comes at me, I'm gonna leap at them.
Fair enough. What is Rasei's reaction to all of this?
I vaguely recall being interested in the door, but not being that far away from the action. And I think that as things sort of resolve themselves around with the imp and the glamour, that Rasei would certainly be astonished. It's not something that I would expect actually from witch hunter, that there would be any kind of, sort of spells or magic. So, I'm surprised and shocked, but I'm also recognizing that this moment is to our advantage. So I'm sort of going to let it play out. Um, I'm a little concerned about Alicio, just and the chain situation as well. So there's just a part of me that's kind of frozen in the moment.
All right. So with regards to Elysia, there a couple of these chains leapt across the chasm. One of them has wrapped itself around Parta's other arm, and two of them have landed on Elysia and are starting to kind of like almost like one of them is wrapped around his legs, so he can't move his legs very well, and the other one has wrapped itself around, starting to wrap itself around his torso. It's the one of the phrases that I got on, I pulled out of that was seize this opportunity. Is there anything you would like to do with that opportunity of this imp is like not looking at you guys at this point. He is like groveling, looking at the ground, averting his gaze.
Well,
Is he still holding the chains?
He has let go of the chains. They're still tied to the post, but
and he's tied to the post as well, right?
Yes, he is. He is in fact tied to the post.
And Alicio's is, however, wrapped up in chains, right? Those other chains are around Alicio, and the player in me wants to hit it with my sword, i.e. the imp, but the Rosé would actually try to help Alicio first, I think. So that's what Rosé would do.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think that there's a terrible amount of risk in this particular moment of you doing that. So I think that you can kind of go up and start maybe like hacking at some of these chains with your sword and break a couple of them off.
I think while he's doing that, Vero might, because he's confused, because like Rosé is just treating Parta like, I don't know, like he's not worried about him or something. So, and I'm like, what the hell is? So I'm just, I think I'll ask out loud. I'll be like, Rosé, do you see a woman where Parta used to be? I mean, not, yeah.
Yes, Parta is a woman. Vera.
I mean, like an old woman.
Yes, I do.
I think, I mean, you're yelling out to not Alicio, sorry, Rosé. So Parta can hear you. I think you get a bit of a side eye glance over her shoulder from Parta. She looks back to see what you're even doing, and then she'll like out of the corner of her mouth say, "Pharaoh, go read the magic from the post." What are you doing?
As far as I can tell, there's no way across this chasm, though, right?
Not with that attitude.
I mean, Vero is not known for his bold, bull by the horn methods. That's for sure. So I'm not sure if he's the right guy to ask. I think like he would be. I think if you said something like that, he'd be like, Rosé, I think it's better that you take. I'll tend to. I'll take to Alicio if you think there's a method here.
Very well.
It seems like you're doing a bad job anyway, and I'll like, be like, let me show you how it's done.
All right.
Tells the surgeon.
Vero totters over. I'll go to the post. I will try to make a jump of whatever length is necessary to get over to that post.
Yeah, it's about 10 feet. So.
Oh, okay. It's a little bit more than I had imagined, but
so it'd be a solid running jump to get across this. But it is something that you could feasibly do.
I think I'm gonna risk it. Yeah, let's do it.
It's gonna be
yeah.
tough. So it sounds like what you want is to get across. What could go wrong here? I mean, the obvious one is you don't make it and you land in the pit full of these husk things.
The imp, perhaps part of spell ends, just as he's jumping, and the imp realizes that this has all been a farce.
Ooh, that's fun.
That I was about to say that might be a good devil's bargain.
Yeah, that's a great devil's bargain.
Vero, do you have any?
Maybe. I mean, like, because as a devil's bargain, it would be interesting to me if like Rase makes it, but you're like clinging to the edge, like maybe just underneath the imp, or like to the imp's holding on to the imp's post, so you're like in a vulnerable position.
So that is not a particularly good devil's bargain, because
I was thinking. I wasn't. Are we doing devil's bargain?
Okay.
Sorry.
You said devil's bargain at the beginning, so
No. So I was saying I would to tie it into the devil's bargain he had suggested that
see.
was my
I see. Okay. Yeah, I'll keep those in mind. Devil's bargains here. The devil's bargain that I'm going to offer is that the magic of the post is working on its own without the imp, and so the chains are going to start retracting regardless. And those are the chains that are currently wrapped around Elisio's legs and Parta's arm.
Okay. I was going to say I don't understand the implications of that. So
yeah, I was like,
sounds
how's
like
that bad?
we'd start getting pulled in.
Yes.
To the pit.
Basically putting a timer on Elisio and Parta.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And the first devil's bargain was.
So mine was that
the magic wears out.
Yeah, Parta's spell ends, and the imp sort of like realizes this has all just been a trick.
Yeah, I'll actually take the chains.
Okay.
Which will give us a dilemma later. Yeah, so that's a devil's bargain, and I don't think I'm going to use any equipment.
Do you have any skills?
Because I think I'm running. I think this is a in the moment kind of a thing. And the only physical skill that I have, I don't quite think I can bend it to this particular situation as much as I would like.
All right.
So that's one.
So that's one light die.
One.
You can add a dark die if you are willing to risk your mind or body in doing this.
And I'm taking the devil's bargain, and that's what's given me the.
Yes, so the devil's bargain gives you one light die.
Yeah.
And that's the one die you get.
I'm just going to point out there's a 10-foot pole in the backpack, and if now is the time for a pole vault scene, it's the best chance I've ever heard.
That would be amazing.
Let's go ahead and sure.
I guess it must be retractable.
Let's go ahead and use the 10-foot pole.
It's such a
I'm
classic item.
out of things now, though. That's the last thing I could pull out of my backpack. Was the other reason I was a little shy for that. But that's all right.
It's the last session.
Yeah. So I want me to roll first.
So so that's two light die. You can add a dark die if you want.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes first. Okay.
There's your 6.
Yeah.
Nice.
How come I have a dark in there? Or no?
No.
Oh no! Wait, sorry, I was reading the wrong one. I was reading Parta's.
It bumps down.
Yeah, sorry.
So your roll is at the top, and it kind of ticker tape scrolls. So that's cool. Yeah, so describe what this do you plant on the side of the pit, or do you plant at the bottom and use this to like lever yourself across? Because this pit really isn't that deep. It's
Yeah,
just full of these husk things.
I take the it's a 10-foot pole, so it's not like it's in the backpack. I take the 10-foot pole off my back as I'm running, and plant it right as at the edge before the chasm, and use it to hoist myself up in a nice high arc and over, and smashes through, landing on my feet.
I love it. Yeah, you've got that dueler's body control, and so you look in control this whole way across. I love that. And so I think you land on the other side, right next to the post. The imp is like kind of like trying to like it starts to get up as you land next to it, but it sees Parda across the chasm and immediately goes back down into its like its groveling position. But when you land, the post reacts to your presence, and a kind of a rush of light goes up the post, and all of the chains along that are connected to it, including the one that is currently holding the imp, and so start to retract. And so you can see the one that's holding the imp starts to like crush it almost, as it's still trying its best to hold, but you can hear like a crack as one of its wings breaks. All of the husks are getting pulled to the close side as they reach helplessly for the far side, and Eliseo starts to get dragged by his feet, and Parda's arm starts to get pulled in. I'm gonna toss this over to Vero, I think. Parda is trying to keep up this spell.
Mm-hmm.
Eliseo is still too bound up to get himself free.
Mm-hmm.
And you are the one who realistically has a chance of saving either one of them before they go down into the pit and have to deal with that.
Right. Perfect. I think probably the choice here. This is actually tricky. I mean, like as a player, I want to be like, well, it makes perfect sense for Eliseo, who's not here, to just get pulled into the chasm. But as a Vero, I almost want to say like, well, Parda's been complaining this whole time, and Eliseo's been on my side. So like, I kind of want, maybe not complaining. Maybe that one time you complained, but that's enough for me. That's interesting. I don't know. What do you guys think? I'll throw it to the table. Does anyone have an idea here? Like, what do you guys want to see?
I mean, to be honest, would Vero help either of them? Oh, it looks like you guys are in a bind.
Well, okay, this is the thing though. Vero needs people to hide behind, right?
That's
like,
true.
And like he knows that he's not going to complete this mission on his own. So like he doesn't want to lose human shields.
Yeah. So if Vero is looking for like immediate reasoning to out of character, I am kind of fabricating a way to have Eliseo get pulled off here. But if Vero is looking for a reason, it could very well be that Parda is useful right now because Parda is doing a thing to keep this imp occupied.
Yeah, that's true.
And
that's a good point.
If I don't help Parda, then we have to deal with this imp doing its thing.
Yeah, and then maybe also like there's just like one fewer chain or something around Parda, and Vero is just that's the easier job. So I think he's starting to unwrap these chains on Eliseo, and then we see them getting pulled, and he kind of starts like you know, and then he looks up at Parda, and he sees maybe the magic like sort of dimming, and then they're both getting pulled and struggling, and so he makes just a split-second decision and sort of just like literally steps on Alicio to get to Parda, and maybe you get like a little or something from Alicio, and then just like starts frantically trying to dislodge these chains off of Parda.
Yeah, I like that. I'm not gonna have this be a risk roll here, but
Yeah,
give
and I
us
like the
some fiction as what does this look like? John, what does it look like as you start to get pulled and are frantically trying to keep this glamour up as you're getting you feel yourself getting pulled into the pit, and
Yeah.
then yeah.
So I think you mentioned part is being pulled by her arm, and so I think she's just like digging in and leaning back, pulling against it as she's yelling out at the imp, "Command it to release me! What are you doing? Stop this! Stop this now!" Even though clearly the imp is not in control of this particular part.
Yeah, the imp is also crying out in pain as it is getting crushed against the top of this post.
It's all up to Rosé now.
Yeah. So what Vero, what does it look like as you dislodge this magical chain from Parta's arm?
Is it is it like wrapped around, or is it like, because it's magic, so I like it could be bound in so many different ways. Is it just as simple
So
as
yeah,
it's just
so
wrapped around?
it is just looping around, and you can see that as it is pulling, it's not like snaking up her arm. It is growing links onto the end. Links
Oh,
are
cool.
appearing on the end
Cool,
and
cool.
continuing to circle around the arm.
I think probably what it is I like that kind of scares me. And so what I do is I just yank my crowbar out of my bag, which I had kind of handy. Actually, it might even just be on my belt or something, because I had it handy a moment ago. And I just start wailing at the chain kind of on the edge of the rock. And then like maybe like I'm because I don't know what to do, because I don't want to like grab this magic chain, because that's terrifying. But then on the other hand, there are these things in the pit which is terrifying, and so I'm like and I just like get to the edge, sort of as far as I stay as far away as I can, because I'm really apprehensive about it, and I start smashing this like chain frantically, and so we get this like mop of hair that's like covered in tar flapping from one side to the other as I do it, and then I guess I managed to do it.
Yeah, I love that. And so you managed to smash this chain as Elisio behind you gets dragged off the edge and down into the bottom of the pit, where very quickly they get covered by these figures who are all like reaching for him and just pull him into the big throng of maybe a dozen, 2 dozen figures that are bound at the bottom of this pit.
What do we think Alicia's last words are? Like, anybody have any ideas?
I seem to recall, right, Alicio was framed as being extremely unlucky and extremely like
Yeah, he's the most unlucky person.
eager to please. So I almost think the last thing you hear is like him yelling an apology or something, right? Something that's just like, oh,
Dang it.
The
Yeah.
apology would
That's
be
good.
to his unrequited love that he's pursuing the gift for. Probably.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell her I'm sorry or something like that.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Um, and so let's hop back over to Rasay. You are watching all of this happen. You see, you kind of glance across and you see your friends managing to kind of pull themselves away from these chains. The imp is not any threat at this point. The imp cannot, like, basically cannot move, is being completely bound up by this chain that it is wrapped in. And so you are free to peruse the post. and the did you want to say something? Sorry.
No, I was just waiting for you to wrap that up, because I was gonna say yes. I don't think I would peruse the post, because I think in many ways I'm frantically trying to read the post, because there's a part of me that that actually thinks that maybe reading the post is going to halt the chains too, right? So I'm eager to read the post. Maybe you can
Yes.
do that.
So the way that this works is that this post has the runic inscriptions for the rituals bind and knock written onto the post. If you would like to, you can spend a little bit of time. It's not going to be like like you just glance over it type thing. You spend maybe a minute, 2 minutes, like reading and either writing down or memorizing somehow these runes. You can learn one or both of those rituals.
Is bind like do you get unbind out of bind? Is it that
So
kind of
bind is exactly what it says. Knock is unlock anything. So they are the opposites of each other.
okay. Well, yeah, like I said, I am going to read the posts in part to discover if there's something, within these within what's written that's going to help with the chain issue. But once I understand what it is, I'm going to take the time um, to study them.
Okay. Yeah. So you, actually, let's have a hunt roll here.
Okay.
Just because you are asking additional questions about this thing. So, do you have a skill or a piece of equipment that you're using to help you understand
Well, when
the
I was
rituals?
inspecting, I was at first thinking like forensics, because I'm inspecting the post. But the only thing I think that I've got equipment wise would be if we needed more light. I do have candles, but I don't think that it's a question of dimness. I would rather lean on investigating the post through like forensics and trying to kind of determine how the runes are working and that sort of
Yeah,
thing.
I like that. I like that. Yeah, so go ahead and roll 2 light dice. It's a 2 and a 5. So on a 5, you get another hunt token, but you also encounter something terrible. And I think that what you find is that this post is an enhanced version of both of those rituals. It has been imbued with some additional power, and it continues to fuel its power by basically sucking the life force of anything that gets caught up in its chains. And so these corpses down at the bottom of the pit are soul batteries for this post, essentially.
And that's a terrible thing, as Alicio has been
Alicio just got sucked down there.
pulled in. Yeah. And that's I think a terrible realization. And I would, after after learning the spells, get up and from the crouch or whatever of inspecting the pole, and shout Alicio's name with the emotional timbre that's beginning to well up, and look down into the chasm to see what it looked like, and if it was the kind of thing that I would jump into. But I think I would see that it probably wasn't.
It is kind of a roiling mass of papery flesh at this point.
Yeah, that's like that's I just want to like pause on the moment for a second, because it's like, very often in movies you have this like person falls off the cliff and you can't see them anymore, and it's like, well, there's nothing we could do. But here it's just like, oh no, we're watching this dude die in slow motion, and it's just like, wow, there's nothing we can do. It has a different, like totally different feel to it.
Yeah, when it's only 10 feet away, but you still can't go down there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think it really hurts Rasay's own sense of self. I think he still carries a lot of that sort of night past with him, and is ostensibly still good. And so this is a kind of loss that really hurts.
Yeah.
I think
So-
Vero yells across the pit like, how are you going to get back over?
So the good news is that this retraction of the chains is still happening. So all of these figures at the bottom of the pit have basically been pulled right to the base of the post. And so if you go maybe 5 feet down the hallway, there's not, the pit is just empty, and you can just climb down, walk across, and climb up the other side. Not particularly difficult. You just have to go down into the bottom of the pit and watch where your friend is getting mobbed. But you guys are free to move on to the next set or continue exploring these cages.
Yeah, I think Vero sounds like, well, that's a shame. Better move on. Don't have time to spare.
All right. So as the three of you kind of collect yourselves, Parta's glamour slowly fades in this kind of shower of sparks that fall off of you. The three of you hoist your packs and turn towards this glowing door with the moans of these figures and the continual cries and cracks of this imp as the magic continues to take its course and crush this imp to oblivion. The three of you make your way down a small set of stairs and towards the bright light ahead of you. And
yeah, I think. Oh, sorry. I just had a last quick little thing with Vero. Yeah, he looks over the edge of to Alicio, and I think he says something along the lines of, "Good luck, chap. We'll get you on our way back," or like something along those lines.
Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking like, yeah, does Parta say anything? I don't think she does, but she at least doesn't say that. I think there's like this moment of Parta throwing her pack onto her back and kind of just like one last look over the edge, and then she just turns to walk.
And Vero is like visibly like shaking, and he's like, you could tell his psychology is getting a little broken.
Yeah. And so I think that is where we'll take our first break, or probably our only break, because I know we're having a short session today. So 5 minutes sound good to you guys? Be back at 6 after, give or take?
Sounds good.
I'll see you all
That's
in a
good.
bit.
Yeah.
All right, we are all back. And we are moving on to the next set. So the next set is called The Lords of the Broken Castle. And so as the three of you make your way through this thin, kind of winding staircase that seems like it almost follows a weak vein in the bedrock, it's almost an organic kind of stairwell that makes its way down and gets rougher and more kind of hand-hewn as you get deeper and deeper. The light in front of you gets brighter to the point where you almost have to shield your eyes from it. And you open, and the room in front of you opens to this massive, massive domed chamber that almost appears to be the size of the castle itself. The floor of this chamber is an open, empty pit that is filled with a roiling white flame and covered in a thick lattice work of these same glowing white chains that you guys have seen throughout the castle, making up kind of a lattice fabric on top of this pit that is getting kind of buckled and roiled by the flames hitting it from below. Occasionally, you'll see a jet of fire strong enough that it breaks through this network of interlinking chains, and a rumble. Every time that happens, a shock wave goes out from the set of chains, and this jet of flame lances up to the ceiling where you can see cracks have broken through, and this flame jets out to the outside world. And as you guys look up to the ceiling, you see 7 figures floating in the air above this pool, slowly kind of drifting in a circle around what looks to be a single dais set out, floating in the center of this lake of fire. And the set goal for this set is to access the power source of the creator, which you can see a glowing anvil set on this small dais out in the center. I'm going to toss this over to Vero, I think, because Vero is probably the one who has the most knowledge of this kind of whole setup in front of you, even limited as it is. You kind of push your way in front of these other two, and there is a thin walkway, probably only about 5 feet wide, that makes it a traversable path all the way around the outside of this chamber that you can try and navigate. Although it is littered with refuse and broken things and strange objects that you don't recognize.
Before we get to that, I just want to make sure I understand the room.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this has a circular sort of shape.
Mm-hmm.
It's domed. We have a dais with an anvil in the center of it, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Above, in the middle, floating, is these 7 figures that are just spinning. Is that right?
They are floating in a circle above this dais, yes.
Okay. And then how far up above it are they?
Probably 40, 50 feet. Pretty high up.
And then it doesn't seem like there's any way to get to this anvil except through this flaming lattice work of white hot chains, right?
There might be a way on the other side of the lake you can't see from here.
Okay. Okay. But from where I'm standing,
from where you're standing, the 2 options are go left, go right along this walkway, or somehow walk into the fire.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I get it. So the first thing is that I think Vero starts to sort of maniacally laugh, and like crying and laughing, and like you can't tell if it's joy or he's cracking or he's sad. Yeah, I think he'll like maybe even drop to his knees and kind of like, maybe even yell out, like to the point of maybe even startling these people, like, because he's heard about this in myths, and legends and so, but he hasn't, and he's taken a big risk to come here, and so I think he'll just yell out like, "It's real, it's really real," Yeah, and I think I'll let that just hang in the air for a moment and see how other people react to it, because I think he'll be like caught up in this for a second.
Yeah, I guess which of Rasay or Parda are the most kind of pragmatic in this moment?
Have the seven reacted at all now that Pharaoh has spoken out, or they're circling above?
They are circling, and they do not seem to care one bit that you guys are here.
Okay. I think that yeah, I think Parda, has this bit of a smirk on her own face. Though they're not quite as, excited and joyous as Vero is showing, at least on the outside. But she looks to the other and says, perhaps one of us goes this way. Rasi, maybe you go the other way. We'll look for a way out there.
Absolutely. I think that there's just a moment that reminds Rasay of when he was in the field, when we had first seen the sort of broken castle, and he was looking at the body, and he sort of recalls Parda's initiative and sort of like no nonsense way about her, and as she says, go this way, he just sort of immediately takes that as command and begins to go the direction that she tells him to.
And just before she'll walk off in the opposite direction, she'll look at Vero and put a hand to his shoulder and say, don't do anything too hasty until we figure out what's really going on here.
And I'll look up at you with like, this, almost beatific smile on my face, and I think I like do this like long blink, kind of like it's still all settling in, and I think I just nod at you with a sort of dumbfounded look on my face, and then maybe I like seem to remember something, and I maybe go searching through my pack, and maybe that's where you leave me.
Yeah, no, that's
good.
I don't know what Vera's up to, but yeah, I'm gonna go look around the edge, around this other way.
All right. Yeah. So you have this brief conversation with Vero. So let's hop over to Rasay, as Rasay has already kind of taken off around the edge of this this pit, and you quickly find yourself having to navigate almost like a junk pile worth of stuff. There's swords and shields and like art and finery and all this very fancy stuff, but all of it is somehow wrong. Everything you look at has something wrong with it. Either the sword is just bent, it can be as innocuous as that, or it can be this beautiful marble statue that is constantly shifting back and forth between wood and blood, and it will like turn, like the outside of it will turn into this liquid red goo that slides off of it and then shoots back to the front, and kind of reforms as this wooden statue. How are you navigating through this quagmire of refuse?
Yeah, I think that upon seeing how all of this stuff is wrong in one way or another, I understand that it's not really going to be of use to me in paying my debts, and so I actually take the 10-foot pole, which is proving to be useful, and am using it to pry and pop and push things out of my way as I make my way along the path. And I'm okay tipping some of it into the fiery lattice, and watching it like boop into into that. And so it's slow going. I don't think I'm going quickly,
Yeah.
but I think I'm doing my best, and I understand that this isn't of use to me. This stuff here is a distraction.
I love that. So yeah, you like kind of stick your pole in, and maybe even it's the same statue, and you kind of tip it over, and it as it hits the surface of this uh, kind of pool of flame, it just it doesn't like hit anything. It just continues to fall, but where it passes through this lattice, just instantly vaporizes into this puff of white sparks that go kind of circling up and then back down into the pool. Yeah, so give us a hunt roll with two light die.
Incidentally, Sam, would it be okay if Vero sort of catches up to Rasay while he's doing all this?
Yeah, let's have this hunt roll first, and then I think it makes sense for Vera to catch up at that point.
Sure, sure.
There's a 6. Nice.
Nice.
So yeah, you get your hunt token.
So
And you do not encounter anything terrible as you continue to make your way across this path. And I think Vero comes up to you. What oddity are you holding, Vero, and what material is it made of that's wrong?
Are you talking about like that I pulled from my bag, or from like?
Yeah, you just pick something up from one of these piles of junk, and
Oh,
so
I
you've got something that would in and of itself be valuable if it was made of the right stuff.
Yeah. So okay. So I think I'll combine the two things, and I think probably I was like searching for my notebook, for like notes of like myths and legends or something, and I'm just like looking at this object and I'm comparing it, and it's like maybe transforming in my hand or something like that. And I'm still flabbergasted. I'm still like, it's real, it's really real. And like for the first time you see like an excitement and a fervor on Vero, because up to this point he'd been sort of not restrained, but like he didn't seem energized particularly or passionate about anything. But now that he's so close, he almost, like, I would even say he just laughs and he throws it in, and maybe he takes up another thing and he's like, it's all, it's the same as the stories. And he throws it in the fire, like as if he's throwing stones in a lake or something. And I think he might even pass you and like for once like be helping and like trying to actually get stuff out of the way.
Yeah, describe one of these weird items that you've picked up.
Sure. So I just to make sure I understand, all of these are like mundane items, or like if not mundane, then sort of apropos, this martial theme we have going, or castle theme, but they're wrong in some way. Is that right?
Yeah, so they would be either valuable or useful, except that they're either the wrong material or they're broken.
Right. Okay. So maybe he picks up like what looks um, like a chalice or something, and it's like perfectly formed as a chalice, but it is somehow, and this of course has to be magic, it's made out of meat. It's just
Yes,
it's like a wobbly chalice of meat.
that is perfect. I love that. That's fantastic. And so yeah, you pass for and you've got this like weird wobbly meat chalice that's like bleeding on your hand a little bit from the meat juices. And the two of you continue to push your way around the side of the forge. Parda, what does it look like on your side? How is Parda because this kind of refuse pile, so it circles the entire thing. So what does it look like when Parda is trying to navigate this?
Yeah, I think Parda has drawn the short stick and is going alone, it seems, and so I think she's actually, it's more like picking her way through. I'm picturing almost like, you know, those scenes in District 9 where he goes and flees to, where it's just like piles of garbage, like picking her way through that, like climbing over it. And maybe like just she's climbing over it, she puts her hand onto something and then it like breaks through the surface and she pulls the hand back and it's like there's like a goop dripping off of it and she just ugh, slings it off and then wipes it on her, you know, her clothing and just keeps pushing along and it's just like muttering to herself about what utter filth.
I love it. So, why don't you give us a hunt roll? Are you using a skill or a piece of equipment to help you here?
Well, Parda does have both appraisal and foraging. So I feel like the appraisal probably plays more in this, in terms of like, you know, moving over these things and having an eye for if there were anything in the piles worth pocketing.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So let's see, that's too light.
Yep.
4 and a 6.
That's a 4 and a 6. You guys are rolling really well. So yeah, you are poking around at this this pile. Maybe you go kind of like cascading down one side of these large mounds and into like a big kind of trough in the middle of this. And why don't you describe something that you find that is a boring or a mundane item that is made out of something incredibly valuable?
She finds some cutlery. But I think it's like a set of cutlery that you know, bears some sort of royal filigree on it. And it's like, you know, a single fork
Yeah.
with
And I
maybe
think
like one bit just barely bent, and she bends it back and looks at it and says, "Yeah, that's fine."
I think maybe this this set of cutlery, it's a single like you look down and there's a knife and a fork and a spoon, but they are all made of jade, and so would be completely useless as actual cutlery. They are incredibly dull and incredibly brittle, but somehow they are this like very pure, almost perfect jade. So you can write that down. Those are worth 1 gold if you were able to sell those.
To someone who presumably is not hungry.
To someone who has no intention of actually using them.
Yeah, Parda looks at it and she's like, "What a stupid thing," but someone will pay for it. That's fine.
Yeah. So,
Smash cut to someone wearing a fork around their neck on a chain, like walking down the street.
I love it. And so, Parda, you reach down and pick up this cutlery and you're putting it in your bag, and you see the um, the pile behind you shift without you touching it.
My first thought is it's an avalanche. And so I think I'm gonna just start quickly moving perpendicular, right? That's what you've got to do for an avalanche. Make sure you're out of the path.
Mhm.
But maybe not go too far, because maybe it's gonna uncover something, you know, good underneath. Who knows?
Yeah, you start to kind of make your way sideways up this secondary pile, and you find you're scrabbling up the side of this as more bits of junk and refuse fall and start bouncing into the flames, and you see an arm stick itself out of the pile of junk and like reach its elbow bends the wrong way as it pulls itself out, and what emerges is this horrific torso with no head and 1.5 arms, because the other arm is cut off at the elbow. As it pulls itself up and out, the skin of this torso is a like a mottled wood and brick that kind of fails to keep any of it intact as it tries its best to move out of the way. Um, and you start to look around and you can see other limbs that are completely comprised of bone, or a head that is lolling on its side, and it's unmoving except for its golden eyes, which continue to look around and follow you as you walk. What do you do?
So is this happening all around? Am I like in the middle of these bodies starting to emerge?
So these bodies are not necessarily emerging. You're just now noticing that a large portion of this this kind of refuse here is bodies, or like failed humanoid creations.
Gotcha. Well, that is disturbing. Um, I think Parta just like stands up, taking in what's happening around her. And I'm gonna scan the horizon to see if I can spot Rasai and Vero and see where they're at. Maybe I can. I think I'm just like, yeah, I'm gonna pick up the pace and try to get past this and circle back to them.
I think you're far. They're far enough away that they wouldn't necessarily be able to hear you over the roar of the flames below. But you can see each other, and you can like wave and get their attention if you want to.
Yeah, I just don't know what I'd even. How do you signal bodies everywhere? So unless as long as it doesn't look like they're, I don't see them flailing for help or anything. So I'm just gonna say, okay, I think that's probably enough digging in the garbage for now, and I'm gonna try to get past this because this is pretty gross.
Yeah. So, how many? Let me just check. How many hunt tokens do the three of you have between you?
I believe I only have one.
And I have
think
two.
I think I'm now in possession of 3.
Okay. So keep in mind that you guys can spend those at any point to just say, I find some treasure or something valuable that I can pick up that's worth a gold. Or you can pool them together and say, we find a way to get to this island, or access the island.
I'm up for that if y'all want to, because I'm curious what that's going to look like. But if you want to dig around some more, by all
I
means.
kind of want to save my hunt token to find some treasure, some badass treasure, because I only have one.
Of course you do, Vero.
I would be willing to pool in some of mine with others to achieve the goal. I don't know if I want to spend all 3 on it, but I'd be willing to go in.
Do you want to spend 1 or 2?
I'll spend 2. I mean, you've got 2, I've got 3. I'll spend 2.
Okay, and I'll put in the third. But if we want to have Vero find some treasure first, I'm good with that.
Yeah, and if this is the last set, then I would want to find 1 treasure before we.
So accessing the achieving the set goal doesn't mean you're done with the set. It just means that you guys have made it far enough to access the island.
Okay, good.
So there's still more stuff going on. So I think that what we can do is hop back over to Rasay and Vero. And the two of you have started kind of making your way over a fairly large pile. And the two of you kind of crest the top of this mound of junk. And I think that there's a like a rocking chair that is entirely made of what looks like the flesh of a turnip. And it just like cracks and snaps as soon as you touch it. But you guys take a second to catch your breath and look around. You see Parda kind of very quickly now moving along the far side of this lake. And from your vantage point, you can see two things. Across the way, probably farther along the bank than you have already gone, so still a decent ways away, you can see that there is a very thin iron bridge that goes from the bank to this island in the center. And you also notice that one of the 7 figures that was circling above has broken away and is floating down towards the two of you. What do you do?
Well, I saw Vero was gonna say something. I feel like Vero, having seen Parda start to move faster, is already telling me I'm going too slow. But perhaps that's just that we've now worked together long enough that I've begun to take on some of Vero's voice in my head. So seeing the figure floating down towards us, I would, point up at it. Vero, what is that? Thinking that Vero maybe could shed some insight on it, but also I would be trying to to go towards where Parda's still going this way, so I'm still going to go that way too.
Yeah, so it looks like the two of you, if you kept going, both of you would eventually get to this bridge that is kind of on the other side.
It's the hope.
Yeah, if he says Vero, what is that? I mean, I'm torn here because I see Parda hustling, and now I'm like, the greedy part of my brain's like, wait a second, Parda's trying to get all the treasure for themselves, right? And so you're pointing at this thing, and I'm like, and then I'm like, no, and I start hustling to try to make it to this bridge before Parda, and then maybe I'm like looking back over my shoulder. I don't know if this thing's turned towards me, but as I'm running, I'm sort of flipping through my pages, trying to find something that pertains to who this individual might be.
Yeah, so this is a hunt roll.
Great.
So do you have a skill or a piece of equipment that you're using to help you here?
I do have a skill. I have myths, I would say.
Yeah, I think that tracks. So you're like trying to like go through all these stories that you have written down. Like, does any of these mention floating people or what is this thing? Yeah.
And then as far as
that's it. So you just roll two light dice.
Oh, but I can't use equipment as well?
It's you get the 1 die for either a skill
see.
or a piece of equipment. You don't have to do both.
Gotcha. So you said two light dice, right?
2 light dice. Correct. That is a 1 and a 2. It's fantastic.
Perfect.
So the two of you are hustling your way around, pushing yourselves faster than you thought you could across these this junkyard. And Vero, you're like glancing down, glancing back up, and you stop and you turn and you look. Who was the first person that told you about the Soul Sword Forge?
I feel like if we're doing a flashback here,
Mhm.
it's probably like Vero when he's very young, and I picture him as being in a store with his father, who's also an antiquarian, and sort of like working in the shop. And he's got a full head of hair, and he's got like the boyish naivete in his eyes, and I feel like some maybe like a servant, a liveried servant of some rich person who's down on their luck has come through the door with some artifact they want to sell to our shop.
Mhm.
And yeah, and I think he lays it in front of my father, and sort of in the vision of the flashback, like maybe the speech is just quiet, like we just see their lips moving or something like that, and the camera pans over to the sword, let's say, and it has like this long runic inscription along the side of it. And then maybe we get a zoom up of my dad's greedy face kind of smiling, and then maybe this like, and then we get a pan out shot of like he's like gesturing in this way like this isn't worth very much or something because he's swindling this person, right?
Mhm.
And then maybe I run up to him, beside him, and I have this excited look because maybe I know something about this. He's told stories, and then I just picture him like smacking me in the face or something like that. And then I sort of like cower off, and maybe that's the end of the flashback.
Yeah, no, I think there's another quick second because I think you like stumble off and maybe stumble out the front door, and you bump into this rich person that's down on their luck, and you look up at their face, and that's the face that is coming towards you.
Oh God. uh, yeah. Okay. I'm running for that bridge. Just like full tilt now. Like before it was kind of a hustle, and now it's like a full on sprint. I just picture like to the point where maybe even some of these feathers in the tar are starting to dislodge behind me. And maybe some of them are even falling in the fire, and like we get these little like
I love that. So I will give you guys the option here. You guys can spend the tokens now to just say you get to the bridge, or we can make this a risk roll to try and get there. It's up to you guys.
I feel like I want the risk roll almost. Like I feel like that's such a bad player thing to do, though, right? Like, no, John, spend the
No,
tokens.
you guys get
there
to keep the
successfully.
you keep the tokens. You can get more treasure
Yeah.
that way.
That's true. I actually have not met my burdens with what the treasure I've gotten. So no,
Yeah,
all right,
me neither.
let's risk it then.
I'm down.
right.
Let's do risk rolls.
So all right. So I think the way this is gonna work is that this is definitely risking your mind or body, all three of you, to do this. It sounds like Vero is kind of leading the charge here because Vero is just taken off. But if both Elisio and Parda want to help, do the mechanical help, I think that makes sense.
Yep.
So we'll wait to actually roll the dice for you two. But Vero, what do you want to achieve here, essentially?
I mean, Vero's like holding on to sanity, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think in Vero's mind, that somehow when he reaches the end of this thing, things are going to be okay. There's going to be treasure. It's all going to be worth it. Because in his mind, this has been built up, like, because he was in jail before this, right? For a really long time. So he's been fantasizing about it. And then in addition to the fact that, you know, he's gone insane, partly as a result of the magic, but also partly as a result of his experiences here in the castle. Yeah, I think he's just decided in this delusionary state that it's all going to be okay once he reaches on the other side of this bridge. So his take is just get there as fast as possible and cross it.
Okay, I love that. And what can go wrong here? The thing that I'm going to offer that could go wrong is not that you get. I think the thing that I'm going to offer is that you get bound up in something, and it's not that you. The real tragedy here isn't that you don't get. It's not that you. This thing is chasing you. It's that you can't get to the island. You can't get to the bridge, and your leg is trapped, or you've fallen into a cage or something.
Yeah, that would be bad.
Something that could go wrong could be there could be one of these jets, these jet of flame that shoots up and engulfs the portion of the bridge as we're running down it.
Oh yeah, that's bad. Rasay, do you have anything?
Similar, but I was applying the flame to Vero.
I love it.
I kind of like the flame to Vero, to be honest. That seems cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like you've covered in tar. This can't go well. Yeah. So, do you have a skill or a piece of equipment that you want to use to help you out here?
Yeah. So the way I pictured it was like there's all this rubbish along this path, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I still have my weapon in one hand, I feel like, and I've got this crowbar in my other, and I'm just sort of like swiping and banging at stuff as I'm trying to get it out of my way as I'm making my way along this thin ledge around this fire.
Yeah, I love that. That's good. I love that. Yeah. And then Devil's Bargains. The Devil's Bargain I'm going to offer is that all three of you can hear the voices of these figures in your head.
Is there a duration attached to that?
For now, for while you're here, they will speak telepathically to you while you are in this room.
Go ahead, Jonathan.
The Devil's Bargain I'll offer is that when we reach the center, the end of the bridge, the woman from earlier in that chamber will be there waiting for us.
That's great. I don't have anything.
Sorry, I literally can't even remember the first one.
The first one was that the seven figures,
right? The psychic
are speaking to you psychically.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. I kind of want to see where that goes, to be honest. Let's do that one.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So the way this is going to work, Vero, if you want to roll 2 light dice and a dark die to get us started, and then both Parda and Rasay will also roll 1 light die.
I rolled a 4, a 6, and somehow I rolled a 0. Is that right?
I see a 3 and a 1 on light dice and a 6 on the dark. I think you're reading the little sub bullet is like the total of each dice type, right? So you had 4 total on the light, 6 total on the dark, and then a 0 modifier for the roll.
I see.
But I only have 1 dark die.
Correct. So it's 3, 1, and 6.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay. Yeah, I was confused by that.
Yeah, it's a lot of information because it's like I don't know what kind of roll you're doing, and like if you want the total or not.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so
So
rolling a
both.
light.
Yeah, both Gerald and John can roll one light die.
And mine is a 5.
And a 2. All right. So the good news is that both Rasay and Parda don't gain any ruin from this. Vero, you got a 6 on the dark die, which means you succeed, full stop, but your ruin goes up.
Makes sense.
And so give us a quick description of what how you get hurt as it, because you are basically just like knocking apart these
Yeah, I'm going
piles
wild.
of these piles of stuff. Does something fall on you? Do you cut yourself on something? What does that look like?
Yeah, I think we're just like, he's just doing this wild smashing, and he's like got this maniacal, frantic way about him. And then, you know, he just like, we get a shot of him from the front, like swinging his thing, and then it's like he's struggling to get it out of something, and he looks down and it's in his leg.
Oh yeah, I love that. And so you're limping your way across. And as the three of you reach the end of the bridge, all of you at the same time hear a voice in your head. A new soul, a new soul, a new soul. Come, come, come. A new soul, come, come, come. We welcome you. And three of the, I think all of the figures now have descended to the same level as the dais, and the circle is kind of opening up almost to welcome the three of you along this bridge.
I'm in heaven.
Yeah, I
And
think part is looking to Vero because this, I mean, after the show with the statues, Vero's our guy for this high magic stuff.
Yeah, and he's happy to be in front at this point, right? He's like, this is he's happy to hide behind people, but when it comes to take the credit and get the treasure, he's going to be right in the front, right? So he's like dragging his leg behind him, holding this crowbar in one hand and this hunter's knife in the other. And you see him bleeding out, but we see on his look on his face is this like maniacal sort of grin. And he's happy to move towards them, and like in his mind, this is going all as it should be.
yeah, I love it. So you continue pushing forward. And these figures, as you come closer, the circle starts to kind of reform itself behind you until the three of you are standing on this island, and this ring of 7 kind of glowing orange figures. They look almost like they are like it looks almost like they're made of amber, and kind of glowing from the center, but their clothes are billowing and their hair is billowing like they are kind of in this wind that is kind of blowing all around you. But you all hear the same voice in your head, this kind of echoing 7-toned voice. Use the forge, use us, a new soul, we welcome you, use the forge. And it's in front of you, kind of in the center of all three of you, is this anvil that is probably 3.5 feet tall. It is a big, solid, it would be, you can't, it's hard to tell what it is, but it looks like iron. It's got the same kind of rough hewn texture. But it is glowing white. Like it almost, and when you hold your hand next to it, it feels hot. It's like glowing white hot. And so who wants to put their hand on the forge? And so mechanically, you guys have achieved the goal of the set, which is to access the forge. And there is a special roll that happens if you want to actually use the forge.
I definitely want to use the forge, and if I'm imagining that the spirits are maybe I just know like that's the way to use the forge is to put my hand on it versus the hammer whatnot.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I'm gonna fight you. I'm touching this forge. There's no way you're getting this treasure from me, Parda.
we Vera, we can both use it.
Yeah, no, he's not reasonable right now. He's
Yeah,
like,
I'm imagining this like wild look in his eyes.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's wild. He's getting this thing in his mind. Your greedy ass fingers are trying to get at something that's Vero's, and he's gonna keep you from doing it.
Do we want to have a contest here?
I'm down.
All right.
I'm up for it. Yeah.
I need
I'm
to
looking
go
forward
and
to getting
find those
gold
rolls
golemed into
again.
this flame.
I love it. So each of you is going to take one light die for each ruin that you have. You are going to take one light die if you have a skill or a piece of equipment that you're using to help you in the situation.
I mean, I'm fictionally positioning myself that I still have my crowbar and hunter's knife out.
Okay. I love that. So that's one.
So I'm like swinging at you and getting, trying to get.
Am I remembering correctly when we did this last time? I think we went around and said like what you were achieving.
What you yeah, so at the
We're
beginning
hoping to
it's
achieve?
what do you want to achieve, but it sounds like both of you, what you want to achieve is to be the first one to use the forge. So I kind of skipped that part.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that makes sense because I guess my one question is it a race or is Vero physically assaulting Parda? Because if it's the latter, I think my escape skill can play in because my goal would be simply to beat you there to get there versus a physical confrontation. But if we're both racing, then I don't think escape plays in, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with losing. So roll however you please, however you want to fictionally position it. Yeah, it could be like I was sort of picturing like us being sort of side by side, and this thing not being very far away, and that I just sort of step ahead of you and just like just like stay away and like kind of backing up towards it. That's what I had in my mind, but I don't
Yeah.
know.
Okay. Nope, that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. So take that light die if you want to. Each of you get 4 light die for the 4 ruin that you have. And then I don't think this is inherently a dangerous thing unless Vero is swinging his hunting knife.
Yeah,
But
I mean, he's a coward even when he's like in a frenetic state. So I think it's more just like stay away. It's less like I'm trying to actually get at him.
And then you can take as many dark die as you're willing to risk.
And we get a ruin if
For each dark die that comes up as 1.
okay.
And what does it mean when I ruin out, for instance?
If you hit 6 ruin, then you are lost to the forge, and we get to decide what that means.
Oh, cool.
Okay. I've locked in my roll.
As have I.
Okay, so go ahead.
So let me pop over. Let's see what I got on mine. I've got
So Parda has 1 6, and Vero has 3 6s.
Yep.
The mark of the devil.
Vero also has 2 1s on your dark die.
Heck yeah. Perfect.
And I had one on a dark die, so I take one
Okay.
ruin.
So,
So I ruin out, but I also win.
yeah, so Vero gets to the forge first. What does it look like as your soul is consumed by the forge?
Yeah, so I imagine I put my hand on it and I'm like smiling ear to ear and I'm laughing, joyously. And then I just think I get Ark of the Covenanted. I think I just get like dehydrated and dustified. And then
I love
maybe
it.
like all we have left is just like let me think what would be apropos. Like, maybe we just have left is like my notebook or something just drops to the ground out of my hand because I put the crowbar into my belt loop.
I
And I
love
put
it.
and then that way you guys have like maybe some leftover notes or something.
And I think that there is a palpable disappointment from the kind of this presence that's in the back of Rasay and Parda's head. An unworthy soul, an unworthy soul. Use the forge, use the forge. Let the magic be free. And so Parda, you are able to step up and use the forge.
Yeah, I think there's like a moment of hesitation after seeing what happened to Vero, but I think, well, it's now or never. Close my
So,
eyes and just shove my hand out onto it.
so the way this works, when attempting to access the power of the Soul Sword Forge, grasp both sides of the forge firmly with uncovered hands. Feed a portion of your soul into the forge to activate the magic and take a number of gold dice equal to the energy you are willing to impart into the forge, as many as you want. The magic of the forge will focus the raw energy of creation to create a replica of whatever treasure you desire. Roll the gold dice you gathered and gain a single treasure with value equal to the number of 4s, 5s, and 6s that you roll. If you're unhappy with the quality of the treasure, you can continue feeding your soul into the forge and roll additional dice for as long as you want, adding the new dice to the total. Once the magic is complete, a backlash of energy hits you and your soul adjusts to its missing portion. Take dark dice equal to the number of gold dice you rolled and increase your ruin by the number of die less than or equal to the value of the treasure you created. So, for example, if you choose to roll 3 gold dice and you get a 3, a 3, and a 6, you get a treasure worth 1 gold because you rolled the 1, 4, 5, or 6. You want some more, so you roll another dice and you get a 5. So now your treasure is worth 2 gold. So you take 4 dark dice because you rolled 4 die to start off with. And you roll all of those and you get a 1, a 3, a 4, and a 4. The 1 is less than or equal to the value of the treasure you got. So you take 1 ruin.
Gotcha. Okay. Ooh. Well, I am at 5 ruin, so I've got to play this a little careful. I like the sound of starting with 3 dice.
So go ahead and roll 3d6s. You can roll light dice instead of gold dice. It's a little more thematic to roll gold dice, but
Yeah, I'll do that. So there's 3. Okay.
as a 3, a 5, and a 3. So you would get a treasure worth 1 gold.
Okay. And I'm gonna be a boring player and I'm gonna play it safe.
Okay.
Take my 1 gold treasure.
All right, so now you roll 3 dark die, and your ruin goes up if you roll any ones.
Okay. Oh no!
And there's the 1. I love it.
Man.
So, first off, what is the treasure that you create?
I think it's got to be something from my childhood with the witch mother. I think it's like it's a brooch that she always wore in her hair.
Mhm.
And so when I first create it, like I immediately recognize it, and I'm like kind of confused by it, but I think okay. And then I'm just gonna go straight into how I'm lost since
I
I
love it.
hit the my top ruin as well.
So there's
Oh, go
a
ahead.
special rule that if using the forge in this way kills you, you become one of the 7 lords.
Okay.
So describe what it looks like as your body turns to amber and you become a release valve for this magic.
Yeah. Okay. In that case, I take the brooch and I put it into my hair. I do my hair up and stick the brooch into it, and I just look to Alicia and I say, "Seems this is the end of the road for me." And this process just takes over as you see Parda lift up and out, joining the others.
And I think it's almost the same as what we just saw from Vero, except that this amber figure is left behind as after the kind of the flesh is burned away and blown away from all this energy that kind of radiates off of this anvil. And Rasay has to stand there and watch as Parda joins the now circle of 8 figures. And the same voice echoes in your head, but now you recognize Parda's voice mixed in with the other 7. A worthy soul, a worthy soul. Use the forge, release the magic, set us free.
One got dustified, Ark of the Covenant melted. The other one got turned into a statue. What does Rasay want to do?
Yeah, I think, having seen both outcomes, um, and kind of knowing himself a little bit, he thinks he's worthy. Um, and he thinks, no offense to the recently departed Parda, but he thinks that he's more worthy in some ways. So I think he's actually seen the outcomes gradually get better. And so third time is a charm. I think he's going
I
to try
love
to
it.
use the forge.
Yeah, I don't know if Parda's outcome was any better than mine. It might actually be worse. They might be getting worse, not better.
Yeah, Rasay doesn't realize that, but you may be right. So
Yeah, so how much of your soul are you willing to
yeah, but that's
put
also
into this?
the interesting thing about Rasay. He's not gonna give up as much soul. So I was thinking about going 2 light dice.
Yeah. So the nice thing about this is if you don't like your outcome, you can just keep adding more dice for as long as you want. So
Right. Okay.
start
Sure.
low.
So I get just gonna do 2 light right now.
Yep. So 2 and a 1. So you would get a a treasure, but it would be worth nothing. It would be one of these kind of worthless pieces of junk that you
Okay.
find everywhere.
Okay.
So you can continue adding dice.
Sure. Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go 1 more. We'll see.
Okay, so that's a 4. So you at least get something. So
And an actual something, not
that
one
is
of these.
an actual
Yeah.
valuable something.
Yeah, and I think that that's where Rasay stops.
Okay.
You know, I don't think he goes all in once he gets something of value. So now I'm gonna do the 3
Yeah.
dark.
So before we move on,
Mhm.
what are you making, and what is it made of first? And then when you put a little bit more of soul into this and kind of refine your creation, what does that look like?
Sure. So um, the thing that he is thinking about, I mean, he's thinking about Lord Nevin, and he as he's pouring his soul in, the artifact that's created is that sort of crest from his old order. And so there's this sort of like almost a griffin kind of griffo sort of lion eagle thing that emerges, but it as it first emerges, it's emerging not in gold, not in something of value, but is actually still emerging in decayed flesh. You know, it's like the sort of meat of these animals, but the shape is good, and so he knows that that through the shape it's like it's getting there. It just needs more, and so that's when he pushes the little bit more of his soul into the forge to slowly you can see the sort of brownish red meats changing color and becoming harder as like the sort of molecular transformation through the meats into the sort of mineral like a like a gold or something.
Yeah, I love that. So you've got this gold and silver entwined. Like maybe the lion is gold and the eagle is silver.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now you can take 3 dark die,
Sweet.
and get any ones, your rune goes up by that
All
much.
right. At least one there,
There's 1.
but I don't ruin out.
You survive this.
Yes.
So
I just
you
got to go back through the castle the other direction.
He's
yeah.
by himself, and he's got a phobia of crows.
Yeah. So the as you pull your hands away, this treasure slowly descends from the top of this forge, where the sparks and the fire start to kind of cool and coalesce in your hand. And I would like you to kind of epilogue narrate us first how you get out of this room, because these now 8 lords are going to continue pushing you to use the forge, release the magic, and they don't want you to leave. Um, and then how do you get out of the castle after that?
Yeah, so I'm hearing the lords try to compel me to use the soul forge some more, but I actually think what helps break that spell is the crest itself. I sort of begin to focus on that, and so you know when I'm thinking about that, and I'm thinking about how um, I had sort of fallen out of favor with the Lord, and I had moved on, but really my heart never did. Like I was always sort of longing to get back to that and back to that life. So that sort of sense of longing and wanting to get back is what helps break that spell. And I'm able to push the voices out of my head enough to leave. As I turn to leave, you know, my foot does brush against this notebook, this book of notes from Vero, and you know, I do pick that up as well, tucking it in my pack, and make my long way around the um, the rim of the lava lattice sort of roiling floor, hearing, I think, these voices still trying to call me back. And perhaps the one that that hurts the most, of course, is to hear Parta's voice, you know, trying to call me back. Um, as I leave that room, you know, I think that's kind of the close of that scene. You can see sort of like the goes dark, and then, you know, proceeding through the castle, I think is kind of a montage where you're just backtracking through the various things and kind of putting you sort of reverse engineering the path.
I'm interested to hear what happens when you go by where Alessio's corpse is.
Well, it's in the it's in the chasm. And so, you know, I think what that shot looks like though is, you know, the other ones are quick cuts. That one is a slow kind of like tracking shot as you know, I walk that long hallway along the chasm. And so you can see, like, you know, maybe the just contemplating that loss as well. And perhaps even the camera actually starts to go up too and begins to actually show us what we see of what's in the chasm. And it's you know, everything is a husk at this point, but still, like, there's a recognizable shape because of Elisio's transformations that his body had undergone. And, you know, he's this sort of like part animal, part human. So, you know, from where he was before, that husk in that shape is him. And then we just sort of, you know, go through that rest of that room.
That's good. Do you want to leave it there? Is there any other kind of parts that you want to?
I mean, I think, you know, we could leave it at that. I would say that along the way, you know, I would spend those 3 tokens to get those to transform that into just some treasure. But I think I could do that in a pile somewhere. You know, there could be just some shots. I think you would see, you know, in the montage, like the opportune, oh, we can't believe we missed this, like, you know, picking up of some treasures along the way, kind of thing.
Yeah, little bits and bobs that you managed to scrounge out. I like that. And so Rase manages to make it out of the castle, slipping and sliding down this hill as he's chased away by this storm of crows. And that's where we end off. So I'm gonna hopefully get a little bit of stars and wishes from the players, but I'm gonna stop the recording now. Thank you everybody who's watching or has been watching all of these. I've had a great time. I hope you have too. If you want to go to gauntlet-rpg.com and look at the Gauntlet calendar, there might be more games that I'm playing. I'm going to be running this module again in May, except this time I'm using Thirsty Sword Lesbians as the rule set instead of Trophy Gold, and so that should be a lot of fun. So go sign up for that. I think the waitlist still has some spots on it. And until then, I will see you around. Bye, everyone.